Good morning, and welcome to Redeemer Lutheran Church. I'm Pastor Gary Lodeholt. We are spending this week looking at some of the people who are part of the Holy Week and Easter story, but who tend to fade into the shadows because of how the spotlight is on Jesus and what happens with him. Nevertheless, these folks play important roles, and we should take note of them. Actually, we may not notice the people we are talking about today because we don't really want to. They certainly aren't the people in the story we want to identify with, and so we easily look past them. Today, we want to talk about the chief priests and the Roman guards. Let's start with the priests. First, religious leaders in those days were split into two camps. There were the Pharisees, who tended to be religious leaders in local towns and villages, and there were Sadducees, who tended to be the official priests in the temple in Jerusalem. The Bible often presents Jesus in conflict with one Pharisee or another, discussing faith, with Jesus urging the Pharisee to look to the spirit of the law rather than the letter of it. But with the Sadducees, it seems Jesus doesn't spend time concerned with them at all. It's almost as if Jesus dismisses them and doesn't bother with them. But they sure pay attention to Jesus. While they often have conflict with Jesus, it really comes to a head with the raising of Lazarus. As the priests see this and watch the reaction of the crowds, they decide they need to do something about Jesus. So it is interesting that the event that leads to life for Lazarus leads to death for Jesus. It is these priests who spearhead the trial for Jesus, the chief priest himself who prosecutes the trial. It is also these priests who take Jesus to Pilate and who stir up the crowds to call for Jesus' crucifixion. And in one final act, after Jesus is dead, they ask Pilate to set a guard on the tomb. This man said he would rise in 3 days, they told Pilate. So we need to guard the tomb so that his disciples don't steal the body and try to pass it off that he rose from the dead. So Pilate sets a guard at the tomb. That's the other group we want to talk about today, the Roman guard. With soldiers like these, Rome controlled almost all of the land around the Mediterranean Sea, and these were professional soldiers who were ready to enforce Roman law with violence. When Jesus was on trial, it was these soldiers who mocked Jesus, beat him, flogged him, and crucified him. They were hard men living hard lives. And with these men, Pilate set a guard on the tomb. They play a more important role than many of us have considered. You see, the priest's idea that the disciples could have stolen the body and perpetrated a ruse that Jesus had risen was really something to consider. However, the guard is proof that they did not steal the body and that the resurrection was real. There's no way the disciples could have stolen the body with the guard there, and yet the body was gone. In their urgency to prevent a ruse, the priests end up providing some of the most objective evidence that something unique really did happen at that tomb. You see, if Jesus didn't rise, all the priests had to do was go to the tomb and point to the body. And they couldn't do that. And the guard they put there themselves is proof that no one stole the body. Maybe the lesson for us is that just when we think we've got things in control, God has something grander in mind. Thanks for watching, and remember to let this day belong to God.